two major historical events. One lasted a little over a decade, while the other spread across 2 centuries. One witnessed the tortures and murders of 6 million people, while the other caused the death and killings of a north of 100 million people. One has been narrated and spoken about multiple times in the form of books, movies, shows, etc., spread widely through soft power, whereas the other one, maybe not as much. One man, Winston Churchill, during his leadership, while enabling the escapes of the victims of one tragedy, was parallelly oppressing and mistreating the victims of the other. Both of these tragedies and disasters coming to a halt at almost the same time makes me wonder what were the influences and impacts of one on the other. Jai Jinendra, Namaste. Hello everyone. I am the Minimalist Reader and I welcome you back to my channel. And if you are new here, I request you to stay for a bit and join me in my reading journey. I was recently reading a couple of books which I had selected at random, but by the time I was done with them, they somewhat connected with each other organically in the history. While one is a historical fiction narrating the depressing and somewhat inspiring incidents from the Nazi invasion period, the other is a historical non-fiction laying out the wrongdoings of the self-serving British Empire in India. Surprisingly, both the books emerged from the author's inspiration from YouTube videos. The two books that I'm going to talk about today are The Child on Platform 1 by Gil Thompson and Inglorious Empire, What the British Did to India by Dr. Shashi Tharoor. The Child on Platform 1 has its origin in the video where Mr. Nicholas Winton was surprised by a group of people who were saved as kids by him through kinder transport from Czechoslovakia to safety in Britain right before the outbreak of World War II. Whereas Inglorious Empire has seen the light of the day because a speech by the author himself at the Oxford Union went viral, where he debated and won on the subject that Britain owes reparations to its former colonies. Yes, the irony of Britain's representation in both of these situations is not lost on me. With this background, let us plunge into my thoughts on the books. First, let's talk about The Child on Platform 1. Published in the year 2019, this book is set in the 1930s and 40s during the German invasion of many European countries. The author, Gil Thompson, an English lecturer for over 41 years and based out of the Britain, has also a few other historical fictions to her credit, like The Orphans on the Train, The Ocean Between Us, and The Lighthouse Sisters. In The Child on Platform 1, the author has bound together three events from the realities of Holocaust which are wilder than imagination. With the story of two mothers, Eva and Pamela, and their kids switching between Prague and London, the story depicts first the escape of children through kinder transport, second, the horrors of the concentration camps, and third, and this was news to me, how few of these concentration camps permitted the captives to spend time playing and practicing music, organizing musical events, and even organizing lectures on various subjects. Inspired by the selfless task of Mr. Nicholas Winton, who saved 669 children at the time, the story of The Child on Platform 1 is one of a mother who has to make a hard choice of whether or not to send her child away in the hope of safety to a foreign land. It's the story of a mother who fears losing her own child in the war but still has so much to offer for another. It's a story of deep secrets, living in uncertainties, families parting painfully, ethical dilemmas, and rightful choices. Experiencing an ounce of what the captives of the Holocaust suffered through these fictional characters is heartbreaking. It's agonizing to know what people are capable of doing. But at the same time, I also like to see the good that people like Mr. Nicholas Winton were able to do in such difficult times, granting hope, strength, and inspiration to the next generations. I was transported to another world while reading this book, and it had me hooked. The writing is simple and poised, and the story emotional and gripping. While there is nothing in particular that I did not like about the book, I may still not give it a 5 star because it did not have me awestruck or stunned. And that I think was perhaps because I am already familiar with the events of the Holocaust and I knew what to expect to a certain extent. Despite that, I really loved reading this book and I would rate it a 4 star. So, if you are interested to read more about the Holocaust or World War II, or to understand better how the Kindertransport escape worked, you should definitely read this book. Also, if you like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, this book is worth picking up. Moving on to the next book, Inglorious Empire, What the British Did to India by Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Dr. Shashi Tharoor is an Indian politician and an ex-diplomat who is well known for his rich and extensive vocabulary, which reflects in his writing, along with complex sentence structures. In this book, the author gives us a background on how the British East India Company established itself in India in the early 17th century and how a corporate organization interested merely in making profits went on to become the rulers of India and stayed that way for over 200 years. This is not a chronological account of the events that happened during the colonial period, but it is surely an argument in favor of the stand that Britain does owe reparations to its former colonies, here specific to the case of India. While a monetary compensation may not be practical or possible, it does suggest some probable symbolic actions that may be undertaken. Discussing the era of darkness that the British Raj was for India, the book highlights how trade and operations were affected negatively, exploitation of land resulting in self reliant cultivators becoming tenants and employees, high taxes, participation of the Indian soldiers in both the world wars representing Britain while yearning for their own freedom, divide and rule policy, the horrors of the more than 10 famines that happened in India during the British Raj, the crimes against women, and the massacre of the Jallianwala Bagh. It also fantastically negates the stand of any form of benefit of colonization to India in the form of railways, education, infrastructure, the feeling of unity, etc. And the fact that development, if any, was made purely for the benefit of the empire with no intentions of doing any good to this country. It argues that the British conquered a glittering jewel of the world and left it as a poor and uneducated land. The reason being that Britain did not govern India, they only ruled it for their own benefit and looted India of its rich heritage, reaping the benefits first in the form of dividends and later in many other ways, including pensions for retired officials from Indian taxes, Indian men fighting their wars, unique and elegant building techniques and knowledge in subjects such as physics, mathematics, and science, inflated exchange rates, and precious artifacts withdrawn from India. The book also deliberates the circumstances of the partition of India and the role various national leaders and British officials had to play in it. It is here that I wonder how much the unfortunate and horrible happenings of the World War II, which occupied Britain's time and resources, which is also the premise of the book that we were just talking about, impacted Britain's exit from India. This book is well researched, providing a lot of statistics and giving away a story of sheer capitalism, racism, exploitation, and fascism. It will give the reader a basis to assess and gauge as to where we stand today on being on our own for close to 8 decades after 20 decades of oppression. I am currently keen on reading Indian and geopolitical history, and given my interest, this was a terrific read for me, vividly quoting people from the period, humanizing the era. There were moments where I was very agitated or overwhelmed by the unfairness of the events described. Overall, the book has a very rich research and a vast coverage in terms of timelines and subjects, and there is also a certain element of patriotic bias that I feel towards it. However, it is also very data heavy, and the stats may get difficult to get through sometimes. And given that, I would rate this book also a 4 star. I would also suggest that if you are a beginner, this book might be a little intense and overwhelming to start with. And even if you are not, this is something that one should read at a slow pace and not rush into finishing it. Also, I do not have a physical copy of this book because I completed it on Audible. So that's that. If you stayed with me this far and if you liked the video, please do leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Do share the video with your friends and family. Do let me know your thoughts if you've read any of the books that we've discussed today. And I would love to hear your book recommendations on similar subjects. I am actually looking for something specific to the Bengal famine. So if there's anything that I should read, please do leave a comment. That's it for today. I will see you with another bookish video. Until then, stay happy, be kind, and happy reading.